My name is Meg Daly, and I'm CEO and President of Friends of the Underline. I had a bike accident a few years ago, and I broke both of my arms. And that was my discovery of trying to get around Miami without a car, because I couldn't drive. And I had later in my healing, I took the train near my house, University of Miami, and I took the train to Coconut Grove, and I walked below the train tracks to get to physical therapy at 22nd Avenue. It was July, so you think I'd be hot, but in the shade of the train tracks, it was actually quite comfortable. I noticed how large the space was below Metrorail, because I was walking below Metrorail, and I was the only person out there, and I'd been to the High Line in New York, and I thought, this should be Miami's High Line. And that was sort of that aha moment that propelled me and us to where we are today. This project has consumed my life, and thankfully, and I told my partners that this is something I'm passionate about, and I thought that the Underline is transformative, and I would serve the world better if I were working on this project than working on software. The first thing I did was I talked to people.
Okay.
I said, I have this crazy idea. Why don't we create this huge park, long linear park, sort of a ribbon through our community, and everybody started saying, wow, that's a really good idea.
Do you remember the first person you called?
Probably my husband. Probably my dad. I think I spoke to my dad next. My dad was, the founder of the Performing Arts Center. He knows about big public-private partnerships. Parker Thompson.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's a good person to talk to.
he was a great person to talk to because he really is one of those people who dreams big. He's a problem solver, and he thought, this is an amazing idea, Meg. I think you should do it. I was at that point, I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. And I come from marketing, and I've always found that if 10% of people say you have a great idea, you're onto something. But this was like 90% of the people I spoke to just said, that's a fabulous idea. Why haven't we done that before? Right now, we are working on implementation.
Okay.
So the past 2 years have been about design, civic engagement, making sure that our public and private partnerships were locked, which they are. And then we've raised over $7 million in public funds, $1 million privately. And since we go from the Brickell area, Miami River, down to Dadeland South, we now decided to start building first in Brickell, and that will begin in 2017. So one of the startling things about this project is the speed that we've been able to move.
Yeah.
This is a big infrastructure project when it's all said and done. And comparable projects didn't get in the ground for 8 years, and will be in the ground in less than 3. The total cost is about $10 million a mile. This is a 10-mile corridor, so it's about $100 million. $8 million of that is for the trail per mile, and that includes building 2 trails, one for bicyclists, one for pedestrians, native vegetation, great things like water fountains, benches, lighting, which is very important for safety, as well as making sure this is activated at night. We have to improve 34 intersections. A lot of them are designed for cars and not intended for people to walk or bike across them. And then they will have to be privately funded, are the park spaces. What we found so far is this is a layered approach to funding. There will be no one big bucket, we don't think. So far our funding has been municipal, which was the city of Miami for construction. The county has been our largest funder. Miami-Dade County was very creative in the way they approached the funding, and this has been from the mayor through the Parks Department and the Transportation Department. We're using road impact fees to now build a trail, because we're looking at this as a transportation facility. And we also did a traffic study that proved that we can get cars off of roads, and we can direct people to walk and bike instead of drive. So it's municipal. I mentioned the county is our largest funder. We have a $2 million appropriation from the state, and then we have funding from the Knight Foundation. We just announced last night a very large donation from Swire Properties, led by Steve Owen, the CEO, a brilliant guy, really about community and city building.
Announced his retirement.
Just announced his retirement, which isn't for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And so he's not leaving anytime soon. So this is really that piece, I think, that is catalytic when you really say you have a public-private partnership. We don't want the total burden of this to fall on the public sector. We really believe that this project will transform Miami, and it's about city building. And the public, which includes, individuals, those who want to make this a legacy project, something that they can say it has our name on it for generations, right? And then to have companies like Swire that share that vision of building connectivity to green spaces. And that's what they loved about the Underline. So they made a $600,000 contribution. And when Steve spoke last night, he actually appealed to the audience. We had about 250 people there to say, we really want to use this grant to challenge the community to match and exceed what we're doing. We want this to be the catalyzer for private donations. This is a big vision project.
Okay.
And we've had a few big vision projects, and this is, I think, the next important one for Miami-Dade County. Forbes magazine said that it's time for Miami to shine with the Underline. Travel and Leisure called this one of the next great parks of the world.
Okay.
The High Line has called a summit of what they think are the next great big 10 projects of the world, and we're one of them. So I would say that this is about city building, community building, and anyone who lives near a transit station within a 10-minute walk can get to this park with public transit. This will be the only one in Miami-Dade County. Mm-hmm. So 10 miles long, hundreds of thousands of people within a half mile, but it doesn't matter where you live. If you're near public transit, you can get here without a car. Mm-hmm. So we have our buckets are economic impact, connectivity, art, green space. Miami has 3 acres of green space per 1,000 residents. Portland has 16. So we have big need. So people who have gotten so much from this community, that's their opportunity to give back through this project that could have their name on it for years. One of the things that we've learned about projects like this is 2 things. One is tourists are seeking these types of activities. They want to get into a town, they want to be able to walk it and bike it and not have to drive it. And we're being taught that with City Bike and other ways for bike share. The second is the millennials are demanding these types of amenities. And they're not coming to Miami. They're going to Boston, Austin, LA, San Francisco, New York, because they want to be able to walk, bike, take transit, and not own a car. And so
Not just millennials.
right, so the companies that are seeking that talent want this project to come here because it'll help bring their assets to our community.